Breaking news! Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned, and now our head coach John Harbaugh needs to cool down and figure out a solution for this situation. I'll tell you all about it, but first make sure you hit the like button if you're a passionate Baltimore Ravens fan. First things first, let's talk about this topic here. We're all excited about the possibility of big moves, especially when it comes to landing a star receiver. But unfortunately, the reality of landing someone like Devonte Adams may not be in the Ravens' plans. Let me explain why. So if you haven't heard, there's been some talk recently about Devonte Adams being available for trade. Now, this isn't just one of those off-season rumors. This is serious. Adams has reportedly informed the Raiders that he'd prefer to be traded, and that's great. The Raiders seem ready to move on, and the head coach even liked an Instagram post suggesting that Adams has already played his last game for the team. It's like, wow, even the coaching staff is hinting at this. But here's where it gets tricky for us Ravens fans. According to Brian McFarland, our go-to guy for all things salary cap, landing Adams would be a massive challenge for the Ravens. He broke it down, saying that for this deal to even be possible, two things would need to happen. First, the Raiders would have to eat a significant portion of his $113.5 million remaining salary. And second, the Ravens would need to extend Adams's contract. That extension would mean paying him $36 million in 2025 and $37 million in 2026. That's a lot of money, especially for a player who's going to be 32 years old by then. As good as Devonte Adams is, those are some big numbers for any team to commit to. McFarland also mentioned that even though the Ravens could add void years and restructure the deal to make it work, it's unlikely Adams would agree to that without getting more guaranteed money for long-term security. And if we're being honest, that's not typically how the Ravens operate. They're not known for jumping through hoops or throwing big money at aging wide receivers, no matter how talented they are. It's just not in their DNA. Now, I know what you're thinking. Didn't Adams get traded from the Packers to the Raiders for a 3rd and 4th round pick? Yeah, it was something like that, and it made everyone's jaw drop. But with the Raiders looking to offload him, the asking price could be different now. They're in sell mode, not buy mode. So while they might not ask for a king's ransom, the real issue is the money. And let's face it, the Ravens don't like to spend big at wide receiver. They'd rather invest in other areas, like the run game, which has been on fire lately. Speaking of the run game, we've seen how effective it's been, with Derrick Henry absolutely dominating. Some fans might argue, why do we even need a big-name receiver like Adams when we've got our ground game rolling? And you're not wrong. The running game has been a huge part of our recent success. But adding a guy like Devonte Adams could bring another dimension to this offense, and defenses would have to respect that. But again, this is where reality hits. The Ravens have a deep respect for Adams. Heck, we saw how great he still is when we played the Raiders just a couple of weeks ago. But as much as we'd love to see him in purple and black, the financials just don't add up. Even with a solid cap strategy, it's tough to justify paying that much for a 32-year-old wide receiver, even one as elite as Adams. And let's not forget, Lamar Jackson has been thriving with the current setup, especially with guys like Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, and Rashad Bateman making plays. So while it's fun to imagine Adams catching deep bombs from Lamar and torching defenses, I just don't see it happening. The Ravens have always been about smart, calculated moves, and this kind of trade feels like a long shot. But hey, crazier things have happened in the NFL, right? Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the Ravens should take a shot and go after Devonte Adams? Or should they stay the course with what they have? Let me know in the comments below. Now, let's talk roster changes. The Ravens made a tough call on Tuesday, releasing veteran running back John Kelly from the practice squad. Now, for those of you who remember, Kelly joined the team during training camp and was called up for the first 2 games of the season. He didn't get any snaps on offense, but hey, he still made his mark by returning 2 kicks for 46 yards in our game against the Las Vegas Raiders. But you know the NFL, it's a constant shuffle, and in a corresponding move, the Ravens brought in linebacker William Kwenku. Kwenku's name might ring a bell for some of you. He originally signed with the Minnesota Vikings as an undrafted free agent back in 2022. The Vikings parted ways with him earlier this year in March, and now he's getting a fresh start here in Baltimore. It's always exciting to see new blood join the team, especially at a position as crucial as linebacker. The coaching staff must have seen something special in him, and it'll be interesting to see how he fits in with our defense. Now, shifting gears, let's talk about what went down in that big win against the Buffalo Bills. Ravens Nation, when you beat a powerhouse team like the Bills 35-10, you know you're doing something right. Defensive coordinator Zach Orr and offensive coordinator Todd Monken were in their zones, and you could see it all over the field. The players were locked in, executing flawlessly, and when you combine that kind of focus with the raw talent we've got, it's no surprise we took control of that game. Head coach John Harbaugh couldn't have been happier, and he made it clear that this performance wasn't just luck. On Monday, Harbaugh praised both of his coordinators, saying they'd been spot on with their game plans all season, but this time, it really showed. And you could feel that energy on defense, especially with how they handled Josh Allen. Now, coming into this matchup, our secondary had been struggling, sitting dead last in the league in passing defense, giving up an average of 291.7 yards per game. So when we heard Josh Allen was up next, it felt like the odds were stacked against us. But what did our defense do? They rose to the occasion in a big way. Baltimore's secondary held Allen to just 180 passing yards. That's right, he completed only 16 out of 29 passes. And when you consider how much of a threat Allen usually is, that's a massive win. Check this out. According to Next Gen Stats, Allen had one of the lowest success rates of his career in this game. His success rate on dropbacks was a mere 23.5%, with only 8 of 34 dropbacks resulting in successful plays. This is the same quarterback who led the league in dropback success at 61.9% over the first 3 weeks of the season. So to see him struggle like this says a lot about what our defense was doing right. It wasn't just one thing that made the Ravens' defense click against Josh Allen and the Bills. The Ravens really kept him guessing all game long by mixing up their coverages. They blended solid man-to-man schemes with some incredibly smart, creative post-snap adjustments. Allen couldn't get comfortable in the pocket, and that's exactly what you want when facing a quarterback of his caliber. Our defensive backs were relentless, sticking to their receivers like glue on every play, not giving Allen many clean looks. And when you add the pressure from our pass rush on top of that, it became a perfect storm that completely overwhelmed the Bills' offense. But now, we want to hear from you, Ravens flock. What are your thoughts on the release of John Kelly and the addition of William Quenque to the practice squad? And how impressed were you with the way the Ravens' defense stepped up and shut down Josh Allen? Let us know in the comments below. Who stood out to you the most, and what are you excited to see from the team in the next game? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Catch you next time. Go Ravens!